welcome to the channel. I'm back to break down my top plays at the tight end position for this Week 11 NFL DFS slate on DraftKings. Before we get into it, if you could please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime I release new content. That would be greatly appreciated. And I have released multiple NFL packages over there on Patreon where you can get access to all of my rankings, my projections, and all of that fun stuff. Go ahead and check it out, linked in the description. I'll be referencing some of the tools throughout the video, but if you want access to the full sheet with my entire projection model, all of my metric stats, all the fun stuff that we talk about throughout the video, go ahead and check that out. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down my top plays at the tight end position. We're going to do this by salary. I like to start at the top of the salary chart as far as the guys that I'm targeting, and then we'll slowly work our way down into the value tier as we discuss these top plays. So the first guy that I want to talk about is Hayden Hurst for the Atlanta Falcons, a game that I've been discussing a lot this week as far as my interest is concerned, but I think that because I think that the pace is going to be very high in this one, I've got him projected to be involved in 68 total snaps. A lot of offense, a lot of snaps, a lot of pace in this game. I'm projecting 9.72 DK points with a 49.5 over-under in this one. So he's my first spot of interest. And then just looking at his involvement in the offense overall, he's a guy that has been, one of the top tight ends in the league as far as I'm concerned in fantasy this year. There's a lot of there's a big gap between the elite guys and the rest of the field. But look at the target share that Hayden Hurst has had: 8, 7, 7, 4 targets in the last 4 weeks. You love to see that. 15, 12, 10, and 13 DK points. Really been involved in this offense. And then when looking at my tight end matchup chart and seeing how the Saints have fared against the tight end position this year, you can see that they are the 7th best team to target in terms of tight ends, giving up 14.7 DK points a game. So all around, just looking real good for Hurst. And then looking at his stats overall throughout the year, you can see that he's got a 77.2 snap share percentage, 15.8 target share percentage overall in the offense, 50.2 air yards per game. That's very, very good for a tight end, getting down the field. A 92.5 true catch rate, great hands. And then 5 red zone targets and 2 end zone targets. So really just got to have a ton of interest in here. The game script matches up. Everything looks good. There's going to be a lot of pace, a lot of points, and I think that Hurst is going to be part of that Atlanta Falcons offense. Next thing I want to talk about is TJ Hawkinson for the Detroit Lions, taking on the Carolina Panthers. Comes in at 4,200 this week on DraftKings. He projected for 11.55 DK points in my model. 2-point spread, and they're the favorites with a 24.25 implied total for his team and a 1.05 big play rating. So the Carolina Panthers have been giving up, decent downfield targets. And then when looking at Hawkinson's involvement in his offense throughout the year, he's got a 76.8 snap share percentage, 53 targets, 17 target share percentage in the offense. That's pretty solid for a tight end. You like to see that. 41.2 air yards per game, 10.3 air yards per reception. Doesn't have any contested targets, so nothing to analyze there, but he does have 13 red zone targets and 7 end zone targets, leading everyone that I'm talking about in this video by a long shot. And yeah, he's my top tight end play of the week for a good reason. I think it all kind of lines up, and nothing really much more to say there outside of the fact that he's taking on the Carolina Panthers. And when looking at my matchup chart, they are the 19th best team to target, so not the best matchup as far as how the Panthers have fared against the tight end position, but it doesn't matter when you're getting that much volume and that much involvement in the offense. I absolutely love TJ Hawkinson this week, and he's a guy that I'm definitely going to be having some shares of. Next is Eric Ebron for the Pittsburgh Steelers, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looking at how the Jaguars have fared against the tight end position, we can see that they are the 5th best team to target, giving up 15.6 DK points a game to the tight end position. And looking at Ebron's involvement in this offense, you can see he's got 8.3 average target distance, 10.4 yards per reception, 45.3 air yards per game, 91.2 true catch rate, great hands, 13 contested targets, and he's reeled in 5 of those, and then 10 red zone targets. That's what you like to see. That's what's really going to make me have an appeal in playing him. You love to see the targets in the red zone. And overall, this Steelers offense is pretty predictable as to where the ball is going. That's something that I've talked about pretty frequently. But you got the 3 wide receivers on the outside, and Juju, Claypool, and Johnson. And then you have Eric Ebron at the tight end position. Those are the guys that I'm looking to target, and specifically Ebron. You can see, he hasn't put up any big numbers as of late, really, but pretty consistent 8, 5, 6, 6 targets. Very involved in the offense last week. I was high on him as well, and he kind of let us down with only 5 DK points. But I think that he's in a great spot to bounce back in this one. And then let's not forget that the Steelers are implied for a large total this week. Right now, currently implied for, on my chart, let's see, a 28 implied team total. That's very impressive. That's up there. And then you look at the big play rating, and that's just the cherry on top, 1.14 big play rating in my model for Eric Ebron. Like him a lot this week. Austin Hooper next on the list for the Cleveland Browns, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have really struggled defending the tight end position this year. They are the fourth best team to target in terms of tight ends. Giving up 16.7 DK points a game. So you got to like Austin Hooper in this spot. And he's a guy that when he was getting in a groove, in this offense, and he finally got settled in, he was balling and he was getting very involved in the offense before he went out with an injury for temporarily. But just taking a look at what he was putting up, last week he only had that 2, but before in week 6, his last game he played, he had 10. He was getting a ton of targets, 6 targets, 10 targets, 7 targets, 14, 10, 10 DK points, starting to get comfortable in the offense. And I think it was really just a matter of him not being in for a while, and I think he's going to come back and perform again, looking at his stats on the year and what he has supplied to this offense. You can see 18.6 target share percentage. That's very impressive. 33.1 air yards per game. That's good. 4 contested catches. 66.7 contested catch rate. Not a ton of those. The red zone's the only thing he's not really excelling in. But as far as targets down the field and air yards per game, that's pretty solid for his price tag. And I definitely do think that he's a viable option this week, grading out to be a pretty good play in my projection model at his 3.9 price tag. Next guy on the list is Dallas Goedert, taking on these Cleveland Browns. For the Eagles, no Zach Ertz, so Dallas Goedert's going to get the majority target of the share and get all those tight end sets and provide us with some more upside than he typically would if Zach Ertz was healthy. So projecting him for 64 total snaps. They have a 22.25 implied total. And the Cleveland Browns have not been the best against the tight end position this year. Not really that scared to be targeting tight ends against them. They are the 11th best team to target, giving it 14.1 DK points a game. And when looking at Goddard's game logs, we can see that, pretty consistently he's been getting targeted. He did have to leave the game temporarily in last week's game, so I think that may have limited his upside a little bit. But 6 targets last week, and I think that was a direct correlation with him kind of just taking over this offense. Only had 1 target in week 8 and not really involved before, but I think that the 6 targets is going to be more of the common lingo with him now that there's no Zach Ertz, and I think that he's going to see a tick and up share, and I do think that he's a viable option this week, grading out to be a pretty good play for me. So I definitely like him. Working our way down to some more of the cheap tight ends. One of my favorite plays on the week is Logan Thomas at 3.3 on DraftKings, factoring in his price and factoring in everything. I think that this game is going to have a lot of snaps, a lot of volume, a lot of opportunity. 68 projected snaps right now on my model, 9.58 DK points. I have his team with a 24 implied team total and a 1.11 big play rating, which is pretty good on my sheet for Logan Thomas, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, who are the 2nd best team to target in terms of tight ends. Have been really struggling against the tight end position this year. 17.8 DK points a game. You love to see that. And then when looking at his overall involvement in the offense, you can see that he has a 92.9 snap share percentage. That's very, very good. Tops any of the guys that we're talking about by a significant amount. 16% target share. 48 air yards per game. Very good. Air yards per reception, 15.4. So he's getting down the field. And then his true catch rating is the only thing that, is a little bit not good. But when you look at how many times he's had a contested target, 17 of them. So just getting the ball thrown to him in traffic a lot. It seems, I think that's a little bit of an outlier. 6 contested catches, and then red zone targets. He's got 8 red zone targets and 3 end zone targets. So very involved in the offense, very reasonably priced, and grading out very good in my model this week at only a 3.3 price tag and a great matchup against the Bengals. So I definitely do think that Logan Thomas is a great play this week. 10 DraftKings points last time out, but the target share, like I had mentioned, he's just out there a ton and getting a ton of targets. 5, 6, 4 targets. Love to see it, and I definitely have a lot of interest in him this week. Trey Burton, the next guy I want to discuss for these Indianapolis Colts taking on the Green Bay Packers, comes in at 3.1, a little bit hair shy of Logan Thomas, a little bit of a cheaper price. Projected for 8.08 DK points currently in my model. 26.5 implied total for his team, and when looking at his overall involvement in the offense and how he's been faring throughout these last few weeks, You can see that since week 8, he has 4 targets, 3 targets, no touchdowns. I think that could change, and that's going to give him a ton more upside after putting up 10 DK points, 1-5 the last 2 weeks. Has been a little bit on the downslide, but I do think that he could tick it back up, get it going, and then we're looking at, just his overall stats and where he's been targeted, whether he's getting those red zone stats, all that good stuff that we like to look at. We can see that he's got a 49.6 snap share percentage. Yards per reception aren't really impressive. This true catch rate is very impressive, so air yards per reception is pretty decent. Not really getting down the field too much, but the red zone targets, he does have 5, which is pretty solid for his playing time. So I do think that he's a viable option this week at his price tag on the cheaper end. And the very last guy that I want to talk about, if you really need some savings, I would go to Jordan Akins, taking on the New England Patriots at 2,500. 35.3 snap percentage, unfortunately, so not playing a ton on the snaps, but his team does have a 23.5 implied total and a 1.09 big play rating against the Pats, so they have had some coverage issues. However, with that being said, when looking at my tight end matchup chart, you can see that the Pats are actually the very worst team to target in terms of tight ends, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of ownership here. And it really comes down to his involvement for his price tag. At only the 2.5 price tag, I do think that we could see him getting some good stats for the price tag. That's what it comes to. 9.6 yards per target. That stands out as the best in my model. 11.3 yards per reception. So he's kind of a long shot, but when he's getting the catches, he's getting those big plays. 89.5 true catch rate, and not involved too much in the red zone. So he has the upside to get you there at his price tag. I think that's the appeal in him playing him this week, and that's why I am promoting him as a play, taking on these Patriots. I do think that he is a viable option. And then just taking a quick glance at his game log and what he's been putting up recently. As far as his DK points are concerned, you can see 1, 3, 7, 4. So, kind of aligns with his price tag, but he was up at 3, 4, 3, 3 for most of the year, and now he's down to 2, 5. So when you factor all of this stuff in, I do think that it's looking pretty good. I like that the price dropped. I liked his involvement in the offense for the price, and I think he's a viable play if you really, really need someone on the cheap end in this Week 11 slate. So those are my top plays at the tight end position for this Week 11 NFL DFS slate at DraftKings. If you enjoyed the content, please leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified anytime I release new content. And if you're interested in all my projections, all my rankings, all that good stuff, I try to give you guys a sneak peek. I don't want to keep it all behind the paywall. I want to give back to my viewers, but if you want to support me and get the projections, that would be great as well. Linked in the description. Check that out. And we will see you in the next video where I'm going to break down my top stacks for this Week 11 slate.